In today's show, we're going to talk about the PowerApps in function and the PowerApps split function. Admittedly, they're not exciting functions. So to make it more exciting, what we're going to do is we're going to build a shopping cart style app. And we're going to have favorites marked in there. We're going to store the favorites per user. And so that would kind of give you an idea of where I would use this in line. We'll expose this to the function and some other cool stuff that we're working on for customers. But first, here's our intro. Hi, my name is Shane Young with PowerApps 911. Those guys. In today's show, we're going to cover the PowerApps in function and the split function and generally just have some fun. I'll also tell you a little secret. I just screwed up and deleted this part, so I'm re-recording this after I've recorded the rest of the video. So the good news is the rest of the video is really good. This part's just random. But anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to build a favorites app or a shopping cart style app, and we're going to mark the different assets as favorited. And we're going to do that not by changing the data we want to favorite, but by storing that separately as a relational type of data. So a little bit of a different little spin on kind of how we would normally do this type of stuff. And the idea is I just want to expose you guys to sometimes the way that I think about these things, because we could build a separate relational table and all the fun and crazy chaos that goes with that. But in reality, I thought, let's see if, another one of those ways that I would tackle the problem. So with that said, let's just switch over to my desktop or the demo that I've already recorded and connect the dots. So over here on my desktop's a little sample app I built to kind of walk us through this. So on the left, this is my standard employees list. Right? This is what we're going to shop for, right? We're going to favorite the different employees. And one of the key things here is we're not going to modify this SharePoint list at all, right? And it doesn't matter it's SharePoint, right? The data source is completely irrelevant here. So you'll be using CDS or SQL. So don't think about SharePoint at all. But the key is I'm not going to change my data source at all. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to track in a separate list called favorite employees, where we're going to keep track of all the employees. But if I come in here, so we're logged in as Chewy. Let's over say, hey, Chewy's favorite people are Daniel and Scuba and Jennifer. So you can see that it automatically created an entry over my SharePoint list for Chewy. And it's tracking the ID, right? So Daniel's employee 64, Jennifer's 43 and 16. It's tracking their IDs in the favorites list. And we're just using that then to show over here. And what's also really cool is we come over here, we can remove Jennifer, right? So Jennifer's no longer a favorite. Daniel's no longer Chewy's favorite. And then Chewy's like, you know what? I don't like Scuba anymore. And so if Scuba or if Chewy removes the last one, we're even going to go ahead and clean the SharePoint list up and remove that favorites record, because we don't need a blank favorites record. But if Chewy's like, all right, but I really like myself, that sounds like Chewy, then it automatically puts that record back into the SharePoint list and tracks the ID. So that's pretty powerful to me, right? And what happens here is we're going to show you the kind of different ways that we're doing this, the things we think about. And you might not have to do a favorite scenario, but maybe you want to be able to select multiple items that are attached to a project, or you want to kind of have this relational data, but you don't want to have a relational list. This is going to show you the way that I do it in some cases where I'm trying to make relationships without really, tracking them in their own list. So a little fun. Maybe you look at it and go, that's really dumb. That's fine too. But okay. So now that we're good here, let's switch over, right? Because we don't want to build as Chewy. We're just using Chewy to demo that it worked for a normal user. Let's go over here and you can see right now I see different data. So if I hit refresh, we would see Chewy's records loaded in here. And then just like Chewy, right, because Chewy's favorites are himself, Greg, and Nicola, I can be like, well, Nicola's of course my favorites. And then, you know what? I like Chewy's nemesis, Ferguson. So I've added that. You also see we've added some more employees to the list. I thought it would be a little more fun to add some of the other people in the team. So say hello to the new people. Hi, new people. All right. So let's look at how I do this. So the first important thing to understand is this gallery right here. It is literally just the employees. Okay. So nothing going on there. I didn't modify it. I didn't add a column to it. That is just the employees column. But so what we're going to do is, let's uncheck Nicola. Let's kind of start at the beginning of the process. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to see I have this gray star. And so for the gray star, the reason it's visible is going to be, well, that's not helpful. It's visible if the orange star is not visible. Fair enough. So why is the orange star visible? So this is where we're using this idea of this item ID in data. So this lets you check to see if text is in another set of data. And so I guess we need to go figure out where is the collect employees favorite table coming from. So what that is going to be is on start of my app, you're going to see up here, we'll hit Shift Enter so you can find it easier. We are going to go get the collect employees favorite table by splitting the favorite employees favorites. Oh, you gotta back up a little bit then. So set favorite variable employee favorite is by looking up to the favorite employees and finding the record that matches over there. So let's go to SharePoint real quick. So over here, if we go find my favorite employees list, what you're going to see is I really just have two columns. And once again, this has nothing to do with SharePoint. You could do this in any other data source because both columns are just single line of text. So I took title and renamed it to employee email, and then I took favorites and just made it a single line of text. And so what you can see if you look at the data is that we are just storing them in comma separated values. So 4, 2, 1, but that's just a big long string of text. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go fetch the record. So we're going to go fetch Chewy's record, or in my case, it's me, it's logged in. So we're going to fetch my record. And then we're going to take that text. So that's right here. And you can see that I currently just have one value in there. But we're going to use the split function. And so what the split function does is that takes a string of data, right, just text, and it splits it on a character that you specify. So let's just kind of go demo that over here on a blank screen. So if I take and throw a label on the screen, like, hey, let's just make some text real quick. And so we're just going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's a string of text. So if we throw another label on here and we use the split function, what that's going to do is it's going to take that text. So we're going to just say, what is the name of that label? That was label 3. So we're going to just say, take label 3.text and split it on the comma. Now when we do this, that produces a table of data. Oh, right. PowerApps can't show me that in a label. That's fair. So I'm going to copy that out. And then we'll just grab a drop down. That's an easy way to show a table of data. And we're going to say, boom. Just like that. And so then now the drop down has 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you were to go up here, right here, you could do this as well. And so you could use the little preview tool now and see that it just made a table of 1, 2, 3, and 4. So a single column table, result will always be the name of that column. And then it just divided everything at the comma and put it in there. So if we change our data here to be 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know, 12, 33, and 44. Now in our drop down, right, we've got that data. So that's how the split function works. It just takes your data, splits on a character that you can do. And so if we wanted, I could have split on commas, I can split on semicolons, I can split on special characters. Sometimes people are like, hey, can you split on like the PO number? Well, I can split on PO dash, right? I can split on anything I want here. So it's one of the great things about split. So that's how split works. Then what we needed to do was we needed to be able to find if something was in there. And so in return is an operator. So like equal is it returns true or false. So if we take that data set, and so if we say is 12 in that data set, then you can see, oh, sorry, I don't want to do it here though. We want to do that one in a label. So we'll go back to our label. So for our label is 12 in our data set, right? And that returns a true. If we type in 102, it's not in our data set, it's false. So what that is doing is that is going through that record, right? That single column of result. And it's like, hey, is 102 in any of those? And if we look at it, and PowerApps decides to give us the preview, it's not going to. How rude. Here, we'll undo this. Oop. But if we look at our data set, 102 is not in there. But if we do 4, which is in there, so then that will work. Now, one of the reasons I use split here, when Allison was actually asking about this earlier, so I'm going to kind of cover this. So if we grab this data, we could come in here, right? So we could say, hey, is 4 in that string? Yes, it is. But here's what happens. We're going to take our string, we're going to remove the number 1, right? So we got 2, 3, 4, 12, 33, 44. Is 1 in that data set? It is, right? Because 1 is part of 12, right? The number 1 is in here. It's not breaking it up. So this is why split becomes important, because here one matches. You're like, oh, you're mad. But if you split this data on that comma, then 1 is not in there, right? Because 1 and 12 are not the same number. Even though the number 1 is technically in 12, it doesn't happen. So that's the important thing I want you to take out of this, okay? So that's how in and split work. Cool? All right, well, if you got that, then let's switch back over here now, and let's go make favorites work, because we understand how in and split work. So we know that in and split are how we are showing our data, right? Let's just go revisit that one more time. So the orange star shows up if the ID, right? And so the SharePoint record ID, so 1 in this case, is in the collect favor and variable results table. In this case, the only record is in there is 78. And so that's why if we scroll down here, we would see that Ferguson shows up, because Ferguson the cat is in 78, or is number 78. And so that has a match. So that's why the orange star shows here. The gray star doesn't show anywhere else. Okay. So then now that we understand why that shows, let's see how we add someone to our favorite. So being me, I put the little spinner up here because anytime that we patch, we want to make sure that we, make the users wait. So if PowerApps takes 3 or 4 or 5 seconds, I don't want them selecting a whole bunch of things at once and those patches overwriting each other. And with that stopped, then what we want to do is we want to evaluate. And so we're going to start at the top. So we say, hey, if is blank var employee fave. So we got to figure out what that was. And if you remember on my start, we went and got the record for the favorite employee, right? We went and fetched out this record, the record for Shane, and that had 78 in it. And so we went and fetched that record and put it in this variable. Okay, back to the gray star. So if that is blank, well, it is not blank. Cool. So we're going to jump down here. What are we going to do if it's not blank? We're going to set var employee face. We're going to reset the variable, and we're going to patch into it. We're going to patch into the SharePoint list the favorites. We're going to say, hey, take whatever was in favorites, right? So we know it wasn't blank. So we know there was a 78 in there, and then add to it a comma, and then the record ID for 1. And once we've patched that to SharePoint, we're going to store that back in our variable. So next time around, our variable is correct. This is one of those troubleshooting bugs I ran into. I didn't get that right on the first try. Oops. So then, boom, that would get SharePoint updated with our favorites. Then what we want to do is we want to collect, right? And collect, remember in the beginning, we used that to create a function. So we did clear collect to create our table of favorites by using the split. Now what we're going to say is do a collect. So add a row to that table set where text this item ID equals the number. So if we look, right? So right now in that collection, there is, oh, PowerApps is being rude. How about this? Let's zoom out. There you go. So in that collection, the result is 78, right? So what we should see is when we press this button, we're going to add both to our SharePoint list, we're going to add a number, and to this collection, and the variable will get the updated one. Because if we look at the variable right now, right, in the variable currently for favorites, oh, scrolling, not my friend. Come here, scroll back up there, there we go. But for my favorite employees, if we look right now, my favorite is just 78. So we got to make sure all those things get updated when we press the button. So we'll add me as one of my own favorites because that sounds like me. So we'll press the star. I'm holding down the Alt key in case you guys forget to do that. There you go. You saw the little patch show up. It went. And so what I want to do is let's just go confirm. So if we go look over in SharePoint, 78,3, good. And if we check our variable, 78,3, good. And then finally our table, 78 and 3 is records. Woo, 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 woo. We are now writing to our SharePoint list our favorite item. Now back up here, you can see if it was blank, so if var employee favorites had been blank, and why would var employee favorites be blank? Well, that would have been a case where the user has never set a favorite before, right? So this is their first time putting in a favorite. So if that's blank, then what did we do? Well, we went and wrote it out to SharePoint. So we said patch SharePoint defaults, set the title to the user's email, and the favorite to this item's ID. And then save all that into var employee faves, so that way we would have that available to do it. So we should be able to test that, right? So if we hit play, If we deselect 3, and then we deselect Chewy's Nemesis, boom, you can see the SharePoint record went away as soon as we hit refresh over here, because apparently SharePoint's not going to auto update. Cool. Okay, so that's good. And so now we don't have a record. And so if you go in here now as well, we'll say, all right, I want to add Allison, right, in her fancy little hat. So Allison's my favorite employee. There she is, 79. And then now over here, there should be a record for Shane at PowerApps and 79. Yes! We know how adding works. So now let's talk about how removing a user works. So what we're going to do is we're going to add Nicola. So that way the star is orange. It just makes it easier for us to see the data. And you notice on the screen, like I have things like my current logged in user's favorite ID is 21. So those type of things made it easier for me to troubleshoot. This right here, this whole list over here on the right, these buttons, none of this would be in the real app. But when you're building and learning, it's a lot easier to put these things in the app so I could troubleshoot. Why, like, I mean, literally I spent an hour on this, and one scenario is like it worked. Oh, if I removed everyone and then added someone and then removed someone and added someone again, it would actually break, and because I was missing the step of reloading the variable, right? And so I started putting these labels on the screen so I could see what was happening when I was running it as Chewy, so I knew things were going on. So I can't do justice for you guys how often I do things like this to get it right and to troubleshoot faster, so then I can, I see what's going on, and then I'll just remove these when I roll the app out. All right, so now let's talk about how does remove work. So we'll click on this. We know how the visible works. We've already talked about that. So on select here, what do we got? We're going to say set var, we know about our spinner, cool. So then here, this is called a remove if. And so remove if says, go look at the that collection that we're using to trim out what is shown, right? And remove any records where the result, that's our single column, equals this item's ID. So if we hovered, right, so that would remove this second line from Nicola. And I have the text function wrapped around it because result output text, but this ID.id is a number, so I had a mismatch. So I had to use the text function to turn the number one into the text one, right? Okay, so that's how we get it out of the collection. So then that way it'll stop showing up. The orange star will stop showing up and it'll be the gray star. Then I said, well, if that collection is completely empty, so in this case, if I deleted all the records, so I don't have any favorites anymore, then what are we going to do? We're going to remove that record out of SharePoint. Remember we saw that a minute ago. We automatically deleted the record out of SharePoint. So that's how we're going to do that. If it's not completely empty, which is more likely, right? Then what are we going to do? Well, we're going to set var employees favorite, and we're going to look up favorite employees, title equals email. All right, I get that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to, oh, look. Oh, sorry, I see. I'm like, what did I do here? Okay, so this is all if it's empty. I confused myself. Sorry about that. So we removed it out of SharePoint, and then I did this to go fetch a blank record, because that's the same way the app behaves. When you first open the app, if you've never set a favorite, you have this blank variable. So I went ahead and did this. I probably could have set this to the blank function. I got the same output. But the idea here is I wanted the variable to be back to the same state as if they'd came in without ever creating one. So that's why I just did the same exact call as I did back here on app on start. And if you don't have any favorites, this variable is just empty, and that's those checks that we've been doing. All right, so back to the orange star. Okay, so all of that was when they didn't have any favorites. That's the cleanup for that. If they do have a favorite, then I'm going to patch the favorite employees, the record, and I'm going to patch into there the collect employees favorite table. So I'm just going to overwrite the favorites that are in SharePoint with the favorites in the app, because I know from this step up here that I've got the right data in my collection. So I'm just going to write that collection right over top. And I'm using the concat function, which was a video I did a couple weeks, month ago maybe. I don't know. I'll try to put a link down below for that. But the concat function just takes table data, and here if we highlight it, you should be able to see, and turns it into that string of 79, 1, because that's the data that's in there right now. And then we turn off the spinner. So if we press the button now, right, so we'll hold down the Alt key, and if we press this, we should see that the 1 goes away. There should still be a 79 out here. We got to hit refresh again because SharePoint's being a pokebutt. There we go, 79. And so if we look at the orange select again, we could just kind of go double check ourselves in here, be like, hey, collect employee favorite only has 79. That's awesome. Favorite employees. So VAR employee faves, and so their favorites is only 79 there. So everything got updated. All of our variables are right. And so that's how, no matter how much I go in here and click around and do things, and see how that spinner happens? That's to keep me from going faster than the app can update, because you don't want the users to do 3 quick presses and then PowerApps to step on each other and get confused. So the logic that we're using here, I need to make sure that when the user starts the process, they can't continue until it's done. But so there's all of them, right? And we can pull them back out and pull them out in a different order. It doesn't matter. And that's the whole reason we turn that string into table data and then finally remove the last one. Boom, we've got rid of everything. So that's how I do favorites in this particular scenario. And like I said, our customers app, it's going to be a shopping cart. So they're going to be actually not selecting favorite employees, but favorite assets that they're sending out to people. So lots of fun there. The other thing I'll remind you guys, right, if you are a subscriber to the curated content, you can download this app with all the code right away. So that way you can just jump in and use it and not have to recreate all the things you've seen. So a lot of people find a lot of value there. Other than that, I don't know. If you guys got ideas for other fun little topics like this you'd love to see videos on, leave me comments, right? I respond to all of them. Sometimes it takes me a week or so to respond. I'll be honest, I'm a little behind, but either way, reach out, leave me comments. If I can do anything to help, if we can build you a shopping cart and a favorite tab, hey, PowerApps 911, we're happy to do it. So, and I think with all that, I'm just going to say thanks and have a great day. Before you go, be sure to click on the subscribe button over here so that way you'll be notified when new videos come out. If you need any help or you want to work together, whether your problem is big or small, check us out at PowerApps 911. We do it all. I rhymed. Or if you're looking for more formal training offerings, we have those linked up here somewhere. So check them out. Thanks and have a great day.